All right, we are now joined by some guests who are joining us remotely. We have with us Lieutenant General retired Anil Bhatt. He was the director, he's the Director General of the Indian Space Association. And we also have Dr. Nilanjan Banik, senior economist, who's joining us on the show. First to the General. General, how do you see the budget, especially for the kind of ambitions that it, the focus that it puts on India's growth in, say, space, in nuclear energy?
Well, I'll focus on the space sector, and
Right.
we welcome the budget, and more precisely, the launch of the National Geospatial Mission.
Right.
This is a commitment of the government for using downstream capabilities, and they are specified for modernization of land records, for urban planning and design of infrastructure. We have always believed that in the whole space economy, the most important part is downstream usages, and the government's focus on this is a welcome. As per our study, by 2031, this downstream sector is going to go up to $610 billion. Also, the fund of funds declared for deep tech would also help the space sector and help growth in this sector.
All right.
There have been 50,000 Atal labs which have been announced, and many of them in future would contribute towards the space sector.
Okay.
The startups minimum enhanced of the credit guarantee from doubling it up from to 10 to 20 crores is also welcomed by all members of the space sector.
Let's go across to Professor Nilanjan Banik, economist. Professor Banik, now from the MSME sector point of view, do you see a sufficient boost or support being given from the budget in terms of their, first of all, the categorization of MSMEs, as well as the 1.5 lakh crore rupees that have been put aside for credit for the MSMEs?
Yes, definitely, because MSME sector is one of the most important backbone of the Indian economy. We have around close to 200 million people who earn their livelihood from the MSME sector. And the MSME sector for a long period of time was suffering from inverted duty structure. Now, if you see what has happened today, FM has promised to reduce the import tariff on some of the inputs which are being used by the MSME sector. So from the perspective of the MSME sector, this is a very welcome move, because most of the bottom 40 percentile of our population in terms of income, these are the people who are actually employed with the MSME sector. And MSME sector also has the distinction of creating labor intensive mode of production, which means they are able to create more jobs at a time when jobs are hard to come by. So in that way, this increase in credit guarantee for the MSME sector, as well as in terms of classifying the MSME, reclassification of the MSME sector, I think we have a long way to go. In addition to that, you also have been mentioning about the income tax thing being reduced. And this again will have a very salutary effect on increasing our consumption, because as you know that the consumption expenditure is the most important component of GDP. So although India has been growing at the fastest pace, in addition to what we see around the world, for instance, if I look into the growth rate of the major developed countries like US, Germany, UK, all of them are growing below 2% level. Even within the Asian community, if we see Japan and South Korea, they are also growing below 2% level. The only country which is growing the fastest is India, in excess of 6.3. And yesterday we have heard the economic survey pointing out the economy is likely to grow between 6.3 to 6.8%. So in that way, this boost to MSME sector as well as the tax cut is going to boost our consumption, which is going to sustain this growth that we are seeing at this point of time, and which is also quite important for us to reach the milestone of Viksit Bharat.
But Professor Banik, yes, of course, it puts more money by cutting the taxes and putting a lot of people, by some estimates, perhaps more than 50% out of the tax net of the taxpayers, out of the tax net. It puts more money in the hands of the middle class and hence will boost spending and consumption. But then that raises the question of how would that correspond to inflation?
There are two ways of addressing this thing. If you look into the inflation, in particular, what impact the middle class, it is the food price inflation. Now, over the last 2 years, India has done a fabulous job when it comes to the growth of the agricultural sector. So agricultural sector has been performing well, and we hope that at least in this quarter, you are going to see further ease of food price inflation, which is already in a downtrend. So in that way, I don't think this is going to further fuel inflation. Also, what you see, because after Trump has taken to power, there is a possibility of some of the war which is happening. Already we are seeing that in Gaza, the war has stopped, which also means that the crude price is going to ease down further. And crude being the intermediate input, it also has a impact on how much inflation any country like import dependent country like India has. So going by that exogenous factor we are hopeful that the inflation is going to come down further, and this consumption boost or the way to see that more money is getting into the hand of the people is actually a welcome move, because if the last quarter the consumption was actually quite tepid. In that way, this will help to rejuvenate the consumption as well as...
Yeah, perhaps that is why the tax cuts have been given, so that there is a dire need to boost the